Those who decide told us there was no alternative. They said the demand was fixed. They said reliability needs scale, and scale won't wait. They said firm power, constant power. Said the future needs it now. They called it a renaissance. Said the decision was already made. They said delay was danger. They said review was over. This is how the nuclear Overton window began to narrow. Those who decide talked about solutions, talked about schedules, but not about keeping what remains when the generation ends. They talked about storage for now, they talked about fixes ahead. They said the process was technical, not ours. They didn't talk about the horizon, they didn't name who stays accountable. The nuclear Overton window never held the long term.
Hello everybody, welcome back to Madness. I put a link in the description to the song so you can hear the rest of it. Oops. It's called Nuclear Overton Window. It's in the comments section.
Asking slow things down, then caution cost too much. Consent became friction, so it was pushed aside.
We got a blizzard rolling in and over.
Overton window moved again.
I just love that, eh?
From open debate.
We got a blizzard rolling in on us as we're talking. To 2 feet of snow. At one point, we're going to be getting about 4.5 to 5 centimeters each hour from, say, a couple hours from now till daylight.
The window didn't shatter, the push continues.
It's almost a sin to stop it. Well, you're going to have to go listen to it. The links are in the description if you want to hear the rest of it. Hello, everybody. Welcome back. Got a really, really interesting presentation for those who care. Let me do some preambles here. We're ready. We're rocking out with 4 viewers and 5 thumbs up, 5 votes. How can I have 5 votes if I only got 4 viewers? Google likes me, give me extra votes. Let's get after it. It ain't gonna do itself. Where the hell am I? There you are. So there was 343 whales washed up in Chile, in remote parts of Chile. These are not Sei whales, these are. You probably remember these pictures. It's 2015. But we uncovered, being me, I've been at this 8 hours yesterday working on this stuff, trying to track down. And I failed, but I succeeded in many other ways. But I failed in finding, because I figured, 10 years later, with all these whales, I would find, and I did find the academic studies that they produced and stuff like that. Well, I'll talk about it in a second. The whale apocalypse, more than 300 huge whales found dead in Chile. And at that time in 2015, in history, that was the worst stranding ever recorded. Now, the interesting thing about the Sei whales is that they're solitary whales. They don't travel in groups at all. If they do, it's a very tiny group, just a few of them. But the majority of them, like, there is never anything close to 300, for instance. And so there was a 222 acres section where they found almost 300 of them. Around 30 of them or 40. We'll get to that numbers coming up. If I make any mistakes, I'm going to be bringing up the numbers anyway. I'm busted up because I had to do a lot of prep work today. And fuel up the generator, and fuel up the quad, and fuel up the skidoo. I stole the fuel from the skidoo to fuel up the quad and the snowblower and the generator. Still got some left. I think I still got half a tank there. There's a big tank on that bad boy. It's going to be too much snow to get out there and take a chance on. I'm too old and busted up for this shit. But I might be able to run on the roads before the plow comes through for a few ha-has. Whoop, whoop. Keep the motor greased up. Here we go. So you can see the configuration. They got a small tail, which I was saying that about their tail. It's an awful small tail. Like in that picture, it looks a lot smaller, right? And you can see in these pictures, it's fairly big, but it's fairly robust. You can see the sharp spine, right? See how the spinal column is sticking right up, how the ridgeline runs? There's very few pictures of the back of them and that ridgeline, for instance. But that shows an unhealthy amount. Now, the question is, how the hell, and we'll bring up that poll here, how do you get that many whales in a small place when they're solitary animals? Is it odd that the site, and I probably butcher names, don't mind me, they do not travel in groups, they're loners, and if the groups is 2 or 3 or 4, it's never going to be like 10 or 20 or 30 or 50 or 100, but certainly not 343. And he showed up in an area, 300 of them, of 200 plus acres. I probably butchered that. We'll show you that any moment here now, if I can shut up long enough. Well, that's it. We did cover that. Okay. And they don't have a well-defined migratory pattern that takes them to Chile. And just another couple of bizarre things. When I was looking at the study, there's a few studies out there. They're a repeated sighting. Well, this was Copilot, or whatever they calls it, AI. My first kick at it. They repeated sightings in central Chile during the austral spring-summer months are thought to be feeding or transient. So, yeah, they're thought to be like after whatever their normal path is. They're transient, rather than evidence of a single well-mapped migratory corridor. Local studies survey document groups of side whales in Chile waters since about 2014, the year before there was a crash, that bizarre crash. And at that time, this was just spectacular, unheard of. The biggest whale crash before that, I think, was 14 whales. That was quite a long time ago for other reasons, apparently. Chile may reflect, now you got to remember all the radioactive fallout, all the ocean testing. You would be surprised how many animals were decimated and how many breeding grounds were permanently destroyed. We know it's a million square kilometers of the Marshall Islands is still, in 2019, still too radioactive to be habitable. But the species that, which is your tropical paradise right there, the species that have went there for millions of generations are they're no longer the genetic superior selection, right? Because the genetics, the DNA, the chromosomes have been permanently annihilated through the contamination, anthropogenic man-made radioactive fallout. Chile may reflect opportunist feeding or local movements rather than any strict north-south coastal migration. More than 300. This was so some of these reports. This is 2015, December the 2nd. So, like when I was, I've been at like 8 hours yesterday. I was at it more than that because I'd done a show last night, right? So it was a huge day yesterday, and a huge morning, eve, and early morning for me. But then I had to get out and clear snow because you got a blizzard coming. I got to be able to push that out of the way, right? And then the plow drivers are going to come in and bury you repeatedly in order to get. Our areas usually last for the plows to show up. Maybe don't mind me because I've only been in the house a couple hours and busted up pretty good. And I got a long, brutal day tomorrow. And I'm expecting the power to go out for rolling blackouts anyway. So it might not be a video tomorrow night. I'm trying to do 7 days a week of these die-offs, these bizarre, emaciated species die-offs, because I have so much. And everything I'm bringing you is new for my shows, right? So believe you me when I say I got absurd stuff coming your way over this week. And next week, most likely by the looks of it. Got to get through it before I can move on because the species deserve a voice. More than 300 huge sea whales, how do you pronounce that, have been found washed up in a remote inlet in Chile, southern Chile, in what is believed to be the largest, most horrific stranding of large whales on records, researchers have said. It's not believed, it's unassailably fact. It was an apocalyptic sight, I've never seen anything like it. One of the scientists who made the discovery, I got a little picture of her coming up. Scientists launched an expedition to count the animals after 20 were reported dead in April, which would be the biggest beaching in history at that point of baleen whales, for instance. Beached in an extremely remote region, 2,000 kilometers south of the capital, Santiago. And this was from the study, I believe. The sei whale stranding event, in the Chilean central Patagonian region in early 2015 was the largest baleen whale mass stranding ever recorded. It was 343 ultimately that they counted, but they acknowledged they didn't cover all of those isolated areas. It's beautiful, just a beautiful area. Oh my goodness. It's wonderful there looking like. I would love to explore it on a sailboat. With 343 primarily sei whales, so it's just those whales only. They didn't find any other species. Synchronously stranding the coast between the 46-48 south. So you can go look this study up. Stable isotope records of the baleens, right there where they filter. And they like doing that because the industry wants a piece of everything, right? There's no need to do it. As archives for feeding and migration behavior, which is highly suspect accuracy. Most of the whales stranded in two assemblages of altogether 298 individuals found in an area of only 0.87 square kilometers. And I was like, what? I didn't know that for sure. Which is 0.33 of a mile, 0.34 of a mile. Right, yeah. The 9 remove carry to a 6 over the 5, 6 carries to a 4, so it's 0.34 of a mile. This is the tiny spot. In acres, it's 211 acres. What did I say, 220? So that's 211 acres would look, it's not a very big place. I don't think that was it. That's it there, say, for instance. It's easy for people to appreciate how big we're talking about when you look at that. That's how big the whales were found in. Now, they were saying the whales were found, they figured they died offshore. Oh, sorry. Let me go back for a second, actually. This guy's been harassing me. You're still a loser that accomplished nothing and wasted your life. That's what he called me. Potato head, motherfucker. Block me all you want. He's just vulgar beyond concept. I've already told him I'm not his dad, and there was 12 other guys that night, and I wore a condom, so I don't know why he keeps coming back and calling me dad for. MMEs are uncommon for baleen whales. Right, so a mass stranding event is uncommon for any species at that time, certainly not anymore, since these whales tend to be solitary or form only tiny groups, small groups. So they've never seen huge, right, the genesis of that species is not large groups, right? They're solitary animals, and they meet for the mating areas, but that has nothing to do with Chile whatsoever. Chile is not part of their so-called migratory route. Now, if they died at sea, and we'll get to that in a second, I think I'm winding up. With regards to the size of these whales, all individuals were adult except for one. So there was no babies with that many whales, no young ones, no yearlings or... Largest whale stranding, 337. Now, she's the lady that allegedly found it. She's the scientist. She looks about right for a scientist. And she's Chilean, so I shouldn't say anything, really. They probably died at sea, and they're also trying to suggest that the whales died from, say, like a domoic acid type event. That don't even make sense. They probably died at sea. We don't know exactly where. Now, if they died at sea, why would they all wash up in an area they don't belong in such a large number that they've never been seen in before? And now, they're not the most heavily studied whale, but you know how anal the industry is. It studies it all, right? They do have a significant amount of information. So Carolina Gustine, a paleontologist at the University of Chile, who was part of the team. The first 37 whales were found in April of 2015. Since the Chilean Fisheries Service did not carry out observation flights, which is pretty crazy when you think about how many whales died, the biggest event in human history, the scientists got funding for their own flights in June and August of 2015, and they were unable to examine the whales because the area is so remote. Scientists find hundreds of dead sei whales in Patagonia, Chile. This was December. A lot of the stories are from December. I guess they took off kind of a little bit more. Now, we covered it when it happened 10 years ago. Was it really that long? Holy crap. When researchers flew over the region in June, they found the scale of the die-off was larger. There was at least 337. Now we know it's over 343, and they didn't actually cover the whole areas, including the bodies and the skeletons of the mammals. So they died over a period of time, right? Which is really interesting, right? So it couldn't have been like a domoic acid event, even though it wouldn't surprise me because the radioactive fallout killed the oxygen that allows the algae to proliferate, right? But in the open ocean with the upwellings, not like your coast, like your bays and stuff like that, you got all that upwelling, that breaks it up and don't make it as toxic, right? But then again, because they were in different stages of decomposition, I think it's safe to say that it was happening over a significant period of time. But yet, the other side of the thing is there was 298 within a 211 acre section. And you'll see, I got some pictures from the study. There are still a lot of areas they haven't managed to reach, so it's likely there are more dead whales. So it's not 343. The final number is so much bigger, but we'll never know because they wouldn't spend any money to go. And that, again, is I think the nuclear industry was able to stop that. The die-off, because it looks bad on the industry, everything that looks suspect to the industry has to try to crack it out, right? I mean, if you look at how many people are on such an important topic, you got 10 viewers and 6 likes. It's bizarre. I don't care about that shit. I pointed out because for future generations, you can say how evil the industry was, that even a single person trying to have a conversation was stomped out, disrespected, ostracized, and cut off from everybody and everything. It's like they're trying to choke me to death, and they're not trying. They're choking me to death, right? But I'm not like them. See, I don't know how to give up. I don't know how to quit. I'm not a punk bitch waste of shit like they are. To die off the biggest single event of its kind known to science will be investigated in an upcoming issue of National Geographic, which funded the expedition. What are they waiting for? You're many months behind that. It's because they never had that. They never had that happen before. And then, of course, National Geographic's is Rupert Murdoch, one of the most bizarre, twisted, sick individual, useful idiots for the World Economic Forum and the rest of them. Hardly somebody you want to be trusting. So it's hard to comprehend how other countries, how there wasn't, there is satellite pictures, I'll show you that coming up. But it's really hard to comprehend how little information, even though I was determined to find it. I'm pretty good at this stuff when I have the latitude to do it. Will be investigated upcoming issue of disgusting National Geographic. They're the least people who want to. I went to the National Geographic. Unless you want to pay for a subscription, can't get access to anything they got. But I was able to read the synopsis, right? And these are scumbags. Scientists initially said the whales did not bear any wounds. Yeah, well, it's not like there's a boat out there ramming 343 whales. They got to put that in there just to be a-holes, right? A marine biologist says the warmings of the world's ocean is putting dangerous pressures on the population by killing off their food supply. Ain't that an interesting statement in 2015? Ain't that something? I know ain't's not a word, but I like it, and I use it. It seems to work. I did see one of these pictures, a sailboat. It is Chile. That's probably their Navy and Air Force, I guess. At least 20 endangered saint whales found washed up dead along the coast of Chile. This is the UK scum of the earth. And Associated Press and AFP. You got Daily Mail partnered up with Associated Press and AFP. Got to keep their story straight, I guess. In May 2015. So this is one of the earliest reports we have. And they're teamed up with the likes. Why would Associated Press and AFP, which is the French government, be teamed up with a rag, a absolute rag of a media known as the Daily Mail in the United Kingdom? I don't have the answers. I can guess. It's not a very pretty picture I'm painting. A statement from the Chilean officials on Friday said there were around 20 whales, while the scientists said they counted 30. So clearly this is the initial reports. And it was, there is a couple of pictures of the heads, but there's only so few whales. Everything I looked at basically, except for the study, which is the pictures are not useful in the study, but they're useful in another way because they're satellite. Right, these are terrible pictures. At least that one's half clean. But like that spine is not normal. And when a whale, that's up on out of the water, like this, they don't break down by liquefying. So the spinal meat should still be there, the blubber in the meat. You expect the 10 to 12 inches of blubber in that area. And I mean, it's just the invertebrates in the spine column coming back. There's no meat there. That doesn't mean, because we don't have any, like this, they are like bloated a little bit. They are, they've been sitting there for a couple of weeks, I would imagine, at this stage. Adults can now be longer than 50 feet and weigh 40,000 pounds, 20 tons. And the whales which were rotting when they were discovered measured, and I got that cut off. I got to go back and check that. Because that's an important number. I missed it. Apologize. Was that back to earlier, maybe? Because the initial report is usually the only information is useful when it comes to a lot of these types of stories, because the industry is there to cover it up, right? They were everywhere. None were injured, so we thought they suffered from a red tide algae bloom or a virus. I think they were swept away by the currents, right? And there was one of the people that was there originally was suggesting that in fact, they even asserted that they died at sea and drifted in there. But why would they show up in a 211-acre area? That's such a tiny area for the biggest amount of them, almost 300. I think they were swept away by the current. So these are conjectures, but they're helpful. In my 15 years in the area, I've never saw something. Well, you've never seen that anywhere on the planet. And then, of course, they were rotting. They were I mean, if they were, we'd have seen whales in 2012 and on, severe emaciation post-Fukushima, right? They don't travel in packs. And they show up into an area as tiny. That's a tiny area, right? 211 acres in when you're talking about a 2,000-mile coastline. Mysteries of why the whales up to 30. So this is initial reports, May 11, 2015. Up dead on the same beach. Now, see, that's an interesting way to put it. Because there was to have that many on the same beach on its own, even today, would be catastrophic. These are whales we've never seen anything like that. And even, well, they're dying everywhere now, right? The gray whales will be gone next year, probably. The humpbacks, too. I mean, what we covered in the last 8 days, nothing but emaciated whales. And we were talking about this story a couple of shows ago, and I was saying I got to get after it. And I said, well, how many times do I say that? And I can't keep up with everything that we can't tell that story. I can't do 3 and 4 hour shows 7 days a week. I'm old and busted up, and I'm just trying to do my little thing for this planet as often as I can. And I like nuclear, so I cover that. It remains a mystery why so many whales died. 337. The final tally we got now is, there could be more, but it's 343. But the majority of the reports, especially early on, now this is December the 2nd, this is Associated Press, it's quite a few months after the Daily Reg report, right, with AFP. So this is another report. At that time, they were reporting on 20. Now it's 337. On the Chilean coast, and scientists aren't sure why. And this is original pictures are still floating around. The coast of southern Chile has become a grave for 337/343 sei whales that were found beached in what scientists say is one of the biggest. Well, it's not one of the biggest, it's the biggest. Released it on Tuesday, December the 1st, 2015. Well, I showed you that picture from May 11th. I think I did, anyway. Yeah, I did. They probably died at sea. We don't know exactly where, but they didn't just die by stranding, said the one that everybody's quoting, one that's authoring the studies. But there's no way they all died at sea at different times and then floated in. They don't travel in groups. They really don't. They're what I call lonely whales. They're by themselves. Are not normally seen gathering in large groups. So then why would they all show up in such a, like, say, there's almost 300 of them showed up in a 211-acre stretch. So to say the humpbacks and blue whales belong to the quails families are the largest group of baleen whales, and are not normally seen gathering in large groups. Not normally, no. They've never been seen gathering. Right, so the editor who done that story framed it that way to leave speculation that wasn't warranted. Scientists say 337 whales beached on the Chilean coast is the biggest stranding ever recorded. Back to death story. Now, there was 32 skeletons. We know a lot of them were in different stages. The other group were in different stages of decomposition, so they didn't all die from the one event. They were dying in... so I don't know, right? Some live longer. Because to have the bodies and skeletons, it takes a long time for a whale to become a skeleton. We didn't see predators, did we, in any of the pictures? Or predation on the species, on the dead whales' bodies that were in a perfect environment for that. In fact, there was the videos. All the videos, the water is flat calm. It's a sheet of glass, and there's nothing moving on it. Right, you're not seeing anything breaching the surface. The cause of death remains unknown, but it is speculated the whales may have died at sea rather than stranding. If they died at sea, why would they all show up in the same place? Because there's so many of them, there's only so many beaches. Clearly, when you look at these pictures, not a lot of beaches to run up on, right? Do you know what I mean? You mean what I know? 305 bodies and 32 skeletons. I got these videos there. I downloaded them. I was grabbing screen captures to see, because this is my first boo at it. What you're looking at, these screen captures, which is standard practice for me. Right now, when I see something, I can go back and look at the picture, zoom in, because you know how funny videos can be to rewind and everything, right? And when you see the tail of the one in the back, it's pretty thin looking. It could be a starvation event just as easy, and there was connotations there earlier that there was they were in trouble because there wasn't a lot of food. Now their main diet is krill, same as blue whale and the fin whale, by the way, but they also eat mackerel and herring and squid, which puts them right in the categories of all whales that size. And all whales that size are showing up emaciated all over the world because the food chain got broken post-Fukushima nuclear fallout. Let's keep going here. It's not going to be a long show tonight. I got a tough day tomorrow. See now, so you can see this whale here. What's the name for it? Putrefied or something? Right, the integrity of the meat strands is not there no more, right? So different stages of decomposition is what I'm trying to... Not trying, but what I'm looking for. You can see the same to the one behind them. With their big fancy knives. And look at the cameras and videos. That's crazy, though. All of those guys standing up in a little tiny speedboat is not very clever. So this one has clearly died before the other ones. Why did they show up in this place? And this one is severely decomposing, right? Again, here's another one with a very abnormal spine and fin ridge and stuff like that, which is strongly suggesting that this was a starvation event. The more I see of them, you see another one of them over there flattened right out, putrefied. And same with this one here. Look at this one, the decomposition. This died months, most likely, before the other whales. So the story is quite different from the original version. And the story needed to be reinvestigated. We didn't really get a chance. And I mean, they didn't study the whole coastline, as right. The Navy wouldn't do it. The researchers never covered. And as you see coming up here, they were using satellites. They were using software to artificially scan the satellite pictures for dead whales along the coastline. This is how and so they came up with 343. Right, you see this one here. He's putrefied too. And I was trying to gather up. I wasn't sure, where the story was going to go until it taken water samples. Our water's awful clean looking, to say the least. As an ex-commercial diver, that's very clean water. You would expect that time of the year for the water not to be that clean on top of that, because of larvae and sperm from the mussels and the starfish and the shellfish and the oysters and the scallops and the abalones, all the there's hundreds of worm species in the ocean there. So they're doing a necropsy on the animals. We didn't get any of those results of what was in the stomach, for instance. We didn't get any. I haven't got any document. I'm not giving up yet, because my browser is loaded with a lot of. So these are big fellers, eh? They can get to 40,000 pounds or more, and 50 feet. And this clearly is a large. I would suggest this one definitely was emaciated when it went ashore. There they are, all stood up on the Zodiacs again. There's just no fear, boy. Those Chileans. It's the Zodiacs, very stable boats. There's still no reason to do that. You got to respect the ocean, is what I'm saying. Well, clearly this whale was emaciated when it came ashore. So this is one of the few ones that you can say was emaciated. This one, I might be able to. I'm 50-50. We might have in the next 3 days. We got about a 20% chance of a Carrington event, a sun flare that will wipe out the electronics. It's real. Now, over the next couple of days, that spot, which is as big as the last Carrington event, will be lined up with Earth. And there's already been releasing some. So the upper stratosphere is charged heavily for the last 3 days from sun flares. We have a magnetic field up there, right? The radiation belt is highly charged. And we have a moon lined up. Just a lot of things have lined up anyway. And so if I was people, I'll keep an eye on it. If I think it's going to be significant, I'm going to have a conversation about it. Now, this animal here, this is severe decomposition, so it's really hard. Now, is that a tumor on the top of its body? There was reports of tumors on whales in the first year, large tumors, right? And it's very difficult from something like that to make any kind of So, yeah, you're talking about a huge stretch of the coastline where there was more. And I'll show you that in the satellite pictures coming up, hopefully, in a bit. But I was really fascinated to finally get, I was like, I spent 8 hours or something yesterday, dedicated the whole day to it. And then we done a show that night. I already gathered up a whole bunch of other stuff. And I just want to put out a show every day as long as I can handle it, to try to put some pressure out there. Because I got like 10 viewers, so that's pretty powerful. That whale is emaciated. We already seen that one. I might have played the video twice looking for more detailed pictures the second time. It wasn't a healthy animal when I came ashore with looks of it. Let me go backwards. So again, this one is putrefied. So different stages of decomposition. So how many really died? Was there a couple of thousand that died? That seems to be, would make more sense for me as you'll see coming up. That's how I definitely would start to lean towards if make it through everything the night that I got on this. And like you now, I only been. The only time we've heard of this was in 2015. We didn't hear about it after. What? Let's keep her going. Bear with me here. Says I'm offline. Am I offline? Hang on. There we go. I'm back in shape here. Looks like I'm back online. It said I was offline. I've been streaming for 42 minutes and only got 10 people on my show. How's that even possible? And they don't like the story, but let's keep her going. I forgot to check. I'm on. Thanks, Dana. Yeah, how many are on the bottom of the sea? That's right. Good point, actually. Yeah, they usually say, that's a great point, Skilla. Yeah, so usually you only find 10%. So if you found 343, there's a good chance over 3,000 or 4,000 or 5,000 died. And there was an emaciated. Let me grab it. And then there was another emaciated. I think that's why I jumped into that story, actually. Yeah, Sei whale washed up 2 years ago. And have a look at the picture of it. I'll bring up the headline. Let me go to the headline. So you can find the story if you want to look for it. South Queensferry Beach. But look at this side whale. Dana. That's not it. This one. That's emaciated. Not maybe, or not a little bit, but that's severe, right? I don't think we'll get to that tonight. We'll cover all of that the next show or something. They're looking for phytoplankton. That's what that little device is for, I think. Or zooplankton, or even krill, maybe. The Sei whale primarily feeds on copepods, which is what that's basically for, copepods, phytoplankton. the basis of the food chain, the oxygen chain, the carbon sequestration chain. Like if you're a deep thinker, if you're a good person, and this stuff is really interesting, right? If you really want to appreciate the full spectrum of what's really going on in the world, this is the kind of stuff you definitely want to archive, right? Because all of what I'm putting together in this show is quite. If people missed the first part of the show, some really important stuff there. I'll probably touch on it repeatedly anyway during the show, right? But you can see it yourself is a lot better, I think, because you'll read the other paragraphs. I read them, but I just can't read everything. I could, I suppose, but who's going to sit there and listen to that? I wouldn't even sit there and listen to it, so. Co-pilot search. They probably primarily feeds on copepods. These are like very difficult to see with your naked eye. Krill, which are up the size of your thumb, small fish, like it's probably going to show up here. Their diet mainly consists of 2,000 pounds a day of prey. Now that's interesting. Because you're talking about, if you're talking about 337, you're talking about almost 700,000 pounds of food every day. So every 10 days, they need 7 million pounds of food. Every month, they need 20 plus million pounds of food. Every 7 days, they need 7 million pounds of food to feed that many whales. But that's typically 10% that's the consensus of how many washed up, right? That compared to how many would have didn't show up in your coastlines. All right. That's okay, Skibuligla, 8734. And then James made how many are on the bottom of the sea? There's a lot more than what we're seeing, right? There's probably 9 to 10 times more on the bottom than what we see. What we're seeing is the tip of the iceberg. Everything else is deep underwater. That's a great point. So if they eat 2,000 pounds a day, and they do, then you're looking at almost 700,000 pounds of food every single day to feed that many whales. 700,000 pounds of food. And so when you're looking at these estuaries, look at the water, how calm it is. A little bit of waves there, but a lot of it was, and you'll see it hopefully coming up. So an awful lot of food, right? Mystery is 337 whales are discovered dead in the remote waters of Patagonia and Chile. The largest whale die-off ever registered November 21st, 2015. This is a massive whale die-off, actually the largest ever seen. A group of scientists discovered the bodies of 337, which we know now is 343, coming up here shortly, in the remote waters. The majority, almost 300, 298, were discovered within a 211-acre area. So these are from the plains. Nobody knows why all of these whales died. And they're in different stages of decay, decomposition. And even some of them are putrefied. Some of them are close to shaken. Now, they did find skeletons. Some of those pictures are coming up. And they've studied this area for many decades, right? They've never seen skeletons on the beaches before. So it's been going on. So it's probably 10,000 of them died or something. Since whales are protected, a prosecutor is now in charge of the investigation. In May 2015, 30 whales were found dead, And they're saying, are these two mass kills related? Kills. We don't call these kills. These are, these are good pictures. Let me try my zoomy, because I can, sometimes that helps. So let me zoom into here. There. Let me set that into my presets. And every once in a while we can, if I'm yakking, if I'm rambling, I could go boop while I'm talking, right? And those in the back, like those up there, looks like they could be way more decayed than the fronts. And the front one here still has black on them. Hasn't lost the pigmentation yet. That one there, he certainly looks like he could be emaciated, don't he? Nah, there's tons of food out there. Actually, there's not. That fella definitely could be emaciated, but we can't quantify that because it's a crappy picture. That's all I'm good at is crappy pictures. How do you get a crappy picture? Look at that one here. He still has pigmentation on his back. Look how flat that water is. And have anybody seen any birds in any of these pictures? I haven't. And the seagull, you expect the seagull to be there. Right, the cockroach of the ocean itself. Let me zoom in on that fella up there. He's definitely looking a little odd, isn't he? You can see his mouth and his head. It could be just same to the one to the left of him. Let me go back for 1 second there. Doesn't matter. He probably died at sea. We don't know exactly where, but he just didn't die by stranding. I think a lot of them did strand. That's my opinion only. I'm only at this constantly, so I don't know jack shit. Since the Chilean Fisheries Service didn't carry out observation flights, well, the military, you think the military would have done it? Taxpayers' fuel, right? And same thing with fisheries. You think they would have done it because why wouldn't they carry out a flight when you got the biggest die-off in human history? And on top of that, the massive baleen whales. There was 343 primary side whales synchronistically stranding along the coast. Okay, and so you can see some over here, the triangles. And you can see up there, you see that one bay up there is chock full? I'd love to have a picture of that place. But you can see they were over here, and you can see Wagner Island, Byron Island, San Quentin Bay. It's a nice name, isn't it? For a whale graveyard. Champania Island. Look at all the fjords and inlets. Wow. I spent years and years up in that kind of coastlines doing research. There was 27,000 islands up in British Columbia by Alaska. The triangles show the location of the whale strandings in the 2015 mass stranding event recorded by boat aerial or ground survey and satellite. And the satellite, you lose a lot of the resolution because of cloud cover, atmospheric conditions. So you can see the kilometer measurement over there, give you some context. Identified by an aerial survey is red triangles. Yellow were identified by satellite, and they were using software to look for it on satellites. And they had reasonable success with that, it seems. And because there's no color to those coastlines, any color stands out, right? I guess that's my take anyway. But then these are clearly whales, those types. And the resolution in 2015 was pretty good. Now, these, you can see the bones. It takes a long time to get that stage. You can see the same thing here, but there's a dead whale there too. And they're suggesting strongly that the bones are the same whales. So this was going on for several years. And then you can see the decomposition up there. Let me just zoom in a little bit. Is there such a thing as a little bit with me? I'm going to zoom in manually up here. So let me reposition this. So that whale there is definitely rough shape, right? The three behind it, that one was there before the other four showed up quite a while, I would imagine. A week, 2 weeks, or at least that much anyway. Certainly a lot longer than that. And so their skin will change to that white color fairly quick. Right, that's, let's say like 4 or 5 days, you'll start seeing the pigmentation go, from my personal experience anyway. I said, where are the birds? And there they are. I love it. So you can see 83, you can see 81, 82. These are satellite pictures. And you can see over there 94 all the way to 86. Like that whole bay shoreline, look at this. So, I mean, whatever you're finding there, who knows how many really died, but we're trying to, not so much, we're going to assume that we find 10% because that's the consensus. These look like they're significantly decayed, right? And what scared the birds at that perfect moment? Well, I can see the birds' shadows, right? So they're fairly low. There's some reason that they all happened to jump when the satellite was taking the picture. Is pretty interesting. Let me go up in the top corner. And so I agree with these numbers that they are large whales. I agree with that. And look at this fella here, eh? Wow. Let me back up first. We're going to zoom in on each one of these. Right, so you got these bones here, and there's bones in E and F. So let's go A, B, C, D, E, F, and G. Let me zoom out to right there. Then we can focus. Well, actually, let's go full pane if we can. Right here, I think right there. Move over a bit. Yeah, I can find my way around. Let me zoom in even more. He's a big whale. He's a big boy, that fella. He looks pretty skinny, for sure. Skin is starting to fall off by the looks of it, or her. This one, the whole head is just, and the whole body's flattened out, and the whole head is, we're not seeing what I would expect. So that's A, B. Let's go to C. This one is putrefied. You can see the rib cages. See the rib cages? Not a very good. It looks like there might be more bones there in the water. See that? That doesn't mean I'm right, but that's putrefied up there. And you can see the bones, you can see the rib cages all the way back to the vertebrae. And this one clearly died before the ones we're seeing. So there was several, say 4 maybe, events that brought the whales here. But he's liquefied almost. This one here is some bones, which looks like it's still got some kind of meat left on it, right? Looks like the upper part of the whale's mouth. Now I could be 100% wrong. And these bones, these are pretty clean. These are pretty clean. So they could have been a couple of years old. And let's see what it says. Classification addressing decomposition of the carcasses and the skeletons. I zoomed in, okay. Duh. You got to realize when you're gathering this stuff up, everything is important, so you kind of grab and then try to get more context. So yeah, that's definitely, you can see the skeletons and you can see the putrefied remains. Same thing with this one. This one is completely just liquefying. It's a severe. Let me zoom in on the top one to the number B one more time, because that picture might be a cleaner shot for us to work with. Yeah, that one's pretty deflated, but because it's so decomposed, it's hard to quantify whether it was so-called emaciated, right? All of these are, 2 top ones that is, are so late stage. See, that one probably died long after this one. They're all the same species. They don't travel in groups, but yet we have almost 300 of them in just a 211-acre area. And then we have others stretched out over the coastlines. And the original story came out, nobody actually covered the story independently, right? It was just the mouthpiece media that covered it. Yeah, we got a blizzard, 90 kilometers in the wind. It's a northeaster. It's going to be cold as crap. And we got heavy snowfall. I've never seen 4.5 centimeters an hour. It's going to snow all the way up until tomorrow night. And so I won't be surprised we get a lot more snow and high drifts and everything else. I hope I'm ready. I got to get some rest in, and gonna have to get up and assess everything. If I can get out there early and start pushing and hitting it with the snow blower every few hours, we have to keep it open. There's gonna be a lot of snow, man. That's gonna pile up so high. So the red are from airplanes. The yellows are from satellite, I believe. And you can see how cloud cover can affect their ability to... Well, I have 337 whales that we know now is 300, and 32 skeletons. We haven't seen very much of these pictures, right? Have we? I can probably find more, and I most likely will. The cause of the death of the whales, which can weigh 20 tons, is unknown. Human intervention has been ruled out. Well, how can that be ruled out when you haven't seen the majority of them? Most of the whales stranded in 2 assemblages, 298 found in an area of only that's interesting to put that there, only 0.87 kilometers. And I didn't know Chile was metric. And I guess they are, because it looks like there's a connection to the French there, which is 0.34 of a mile, which is 211 acres. Yeah, 211 acres. And you know what 211 acres looked like? It looks like that piece of land there, right? So it wasn't a huge area. And it's uncommon to have a mass stranding event. And these whales tend to be solitary or form very small groups. So to find all individuals were adults except for one, which meant they were all close to 50 feet. And that's quite interesting. They didn't have only one yearling. They didn't have any babies. Or they sank. Again, what you're finding is about 10% of what would have died. And so the Navy was there. Is that the videos? That's a video. That's a video. Should we play them? Let's play them. And that'll be it, I guess. There's 3 videos, not very long. I don't think I recorded any sound on any of them because they were speaking Chilean. I don't understand that. There's a lot of them for a little boat. They're the Navy, so it's a nice boat, pretty wide. And now we looked at the snapshots of it. Putrefied. Different stages of decomposition. Everybody stood up. It cracks me up because one person falls, the other goes with them too, right? And that looks like, such a sharp spine. That one's emaciated. This one's emaciated. In my opinion, anyway. That's putrefied. It's hard to quantify. That water is crystal clear. It's crystal clear. It doesn't matter. It should be fairly milky or dirty. That one was emaciated when it died, I bet you. Because look at you see the shoulder bones sticking up, the peanut head. These were all adults, so they were all close to their maximum length. I gotta move ahead a little bit because they go short a few times. Right, so that one up there certainly looks like he's severely. That could be a skeleton I'm looking at. So he could have died before the other ones. And the water's always beautiful. Look at this, nothing moving in the water. There's no birds. Even though we've seen some seagulls, you would expect to see a lot with all that fresh protein sitting right there. And that wasn't translated. It's the Chilean Navy. They're in port here. Go backwards, right here. Look at that. I don't know what... I do know that they don't gather up in groups, so why are they showing up in groups? They're solitary animals, right? And this one, look at this one on the beach, that's severely emaciated. That's severe emaciation right there. All right. This was a blue whale. Look at the spine column sticking way up, the peanut head. You can see it really good in this video. Look at it. Look at the spine. The fin raised right up. It's severely emaciated. It's a blue whale, the largest whale on the planet. Look how clean the water is. But you can see that's severe emaciation. And it's absolutely makes sense to suggest that these whales are emaciated too, because we see a lot of it. Why I got the headphones on? Oh, just because I was playing that video. Look at that emaciated whale. It'll take a few days to get to this way down the pile there. I don't know how big the pile is I got now. It's pretty big. Just let me check it out for you right quick here. I'm at 813. Say 800 rounded off, and it's 2247. So 1400. I got 1400 of this stuff to get through yet. And it's not like I'm going to be stopping. You know what I mean? Over the next number of days and weeks. I got so much in my bookmarks and got so much, and this is stuff I haven't got to yet, I haven't seen. It'll be my first time seeing it. When you see it, it'll be the first time you see it. Look at the emaciation of the head on that fella. That was 2012. There's a few of these whales we got documented over the last week, eight shows, severely emaciated in just over a year and a half. Like that's severe emaciation, right? That's emaciation. There's so many of them. It's just blown away with everything I've been seeing. And these stories need to be told. We keep going here. What did I say? 800 and something, right? There it is. We've covered all of these emaciated whales. My goodness. This is just the thumbnails we were using because there's so many of them. The story's crazy. What we're seeing and what we've got documented now on its own, not counting what we're going to find, is nuts. This is. I mean, that blue whale, though, that blows my mind, right? They get up to almost 400,000 pounds, and at best, that thing weighs 30,000 pounds. That's the most extreme of extreme emaciations imaginable. Is now common. And that's the last thing it should be, is common. Is it odd that the side whales do not travel in groups or loners or solitary, yet 343 showed up dead in an area around 220, it was 211 acres, it was 300, not 343. I apologize for being an idiot. I'm misrepresenting that. Hello, everybody. Yeah, flares might increase the storms. That's right, Dana. Thank you. No, we're not seeing hundreds of whales in one spot, per se, like the baleen whales. We're seeing thousands of them dying, though, from emaciation all over the world, just disappearing. Whatever we're finding, you can multiply it by 10 every time, right? Right, I'm busted up pretty bad. I got to get a few hours punched in because I might be out there plowing snow at 5 a.m. trying to get ahead of it. And just try to do the best I can anyway. Get ahead of everything. Try to do another show tomorrow night. If we got power, I'll probably be doing a show tomorrow night. A show after show, and I don't care if nobody watches it officially on ShitTube. I'm still gonna put that out there. Oh. James got a new masterpiece out. I'll close her down with that. It's always fun. Have a great night. Hugs for everybody. We'll see everybody when we see everybody. Hopefully tomorrow night. And catch you on the next one. Take care.
Nuclear's crazy. Nuclear's crazy. Again. Micro processing, tech it carries it, downstream inheritance, nobody buries it. Fukushima meltdowns, containment fail, Corium touching the Pacific, that's the detail. Not fixed, not over, not back to normal, just managed from forever in a shell that got torn. Hot fragments found, marked and avoided. Years keep stacking, nothing gets corrected. Fukushima meltdowns broke the chain, so nothing ever stops. Currents ignore borders, actinides disperse and persist. Whales turn up emaciated, stomachs empty, food web disturbed. What else explains it? If not the ongoing core meltdowns, if not the base of the chain. Name the other drivers, say what it is then. Nuclear is crazy, say the phrase. Nuclear is crazy, still amazed. Front and back and custody forever. Temporary becomes permanent, tied up together. Crazy, no clean end. Nuclear is crazy, again. Build it, run it, manage it later. That's nuclear crazy. Big C under occupation, power at risk, cooling needs electricity. That is the physics. More steps, more handling, more roots, more exposure. No closure point, no final handoff, just long custody. Generation after generation. Nuclear is crazy, say the phrase. Nuclear is crazy, still amazed. Front and back and custody forever. Temporary becomes permanent, tied up together. Crazy, no clean end. Nuclear is crazy, again. Build it, run it, manage it later. That's nuclear crazy. Again, run again. Nuclear is crazy. That's nuclear crazy.